Hey guys, welcome back to Tigera Gitana. My name is Abby, and today we're going to be doing the weekly sacral healing video for the week of June 25th to July 2nd. So I feel like last week, last week was very, very heavy. On a social level, on a personal level, it's been kind of heavy for a while now, and it's really interesting how like the energy manifests, because it's not always the way that you kind of see it coming. So it's really like it just catches, you know, by surprise sometimes. I mean, that's how the planets work. But it'll just be like the manifestation of the energy will just turn into something that was completely, that if you were like, okay, this is what I need to focus on, right? And then something kind of came up that has to kind of do with that, but at the same time, it's like a different issue that's also affecting you. It's just really weird how that is a thing. So for the week of June 25th, July 2nd, messages I need to do for secret healing. It was definitely a very interesting week. I feel like on a social level, there's a lot of stuff that happens. Oh, there was a card that was flipped in here. Hold on. Ah, there we go. We have the Knight of Pentacles. So that is interesting. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest knight in, oh, there we go. The slowest knight in, out of all the knights in tarot. So he tends to move the slowest, and he gets a lot of flack for it sometimes, but it's kind of, and then we have the Chariot, which is Cancer. It's kind of necessary to move slow. It feels the need to move slower. Queen of Cups. That's interesting because the Chariot, which is Cancer, and then the Queen of Cups, which is also Cancer. If you look at the bottom right here, Cancer. So that's pretty interesting. So we do have a lot of Cancer energy coming through, some water energy coming through for this week, which is important. But this kind of night energy, there's movement, but you have to think about it as, again, like when you plant a seed and you're waiting for it to grow. The movement of that night moves exactly as the time that seed takes to come out and grow into that first like little sprout. That's how fast the night moves. The Knight of Pentacle moves. And this is important because there are levels to speed in tarot. If you look at the knights, and if you look at just the cards themselves, there's level to speed. And it's important for there to be levels to speed, because you're not always required to address something very quickly. And that is important because sometimes you need to pull back, and working on yourself doesn't also mean that you need to do it and then accept it and like this you're completely perfectly fine. That's not how life works. That's not how people work. Healing takes time, and it takes practice, and it's a constant choice to work and heal yourself. It's because the second you're not working and healing yourself, you tend to slip back. And we have the Nine of Wands. So let's just start talking about this little water energy. Oh wait, we got the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. That's interesting. So we're not really ready to get to that Queen level yet, but we do have the Queen of Cups. So this kind of combination with the Nine of Pentacles, the Chariot, this water, there's a need to kind of pull back. That's what this Nine of Wands is giving me, the need to pull back. The Queen of Cups is not necessarily in everybody's face at all times. That's not how she does it. She's very much within her space. She needs time to be alone to assess her emotions. She needs to be able to process it, to reflect before she moves, because she's still a queen, so she's still up there, but she still needs to kind of bask in it, like just dwell a little bit. There's a lot of dwelling when it comes to the Queen of Cups. And with the Chariot, there is kind of like a wanting, because the Chariot itself, because Cancer is a cardinal sign, so you have energy of forward movements, moving forward, goal like oriented, as far as moving forward, progressive, needing to act upon what has been felt. That is what the Cancer cardinal energy is, needing to act upon the feeling of the thing. So instead of just completely dwelling, there is an element of, okay, but this is how I feel, what am I going to do about it? Cancer will take its time to dwell quite a bit before it actually acts, but it still will act. Just the same as Capricorns will take the time to plan, but it still will act and move upon that plan. I'm going to pull one more card and then we're going to talk about the cards. This is the, by the way, just moving back a little bit, this is the Manara deck, and I'm also using the Tarot of Sexual Magic and the Zodiac Oracle as well in this reading. But so with this kind of energy, it's like you have the Knight of Pentacles, which is a little bit slower, and you have the Chariot, which is really much the force of what comes from a Cancer that has already dwelled and felt the thing and knows what it needs to do. And then you have the Queen of Cups, which goes back to that dwelling space. So there's kind of a wanting to do something about something, but at the same time dwelling in it kind of cycle that's happening here. And then with the Knight of Wands is really kind of paying attention and being a little bit bruised by it. That's really the assessment of our wounds and how. Ooh, okay. Bottom of the deck is the Hermit and the King of Swords. So we actually got a couple of cards that jumped out. We have the Page of Cups. Then we have the Empress. I'm not really surprised about this. Okay, let me just move these cards up a little bit. Then we have the Nine of Cups. And then we have Strength. So this is actually a good thing, because this is often how I see Cancer energy as well, like the cards that just came out. But with the way it is right now, this like throughout the middle of the week, I want to say there's going to be a shift from the dwelling in action and then the kind of coming to terms with your own strength. And towards the end of the week, there'll be a more progressive and actually action-oriented energy that will take place a little bit. Within the middle of the week, there is this Nine of Wands to the Queen of Pentacles in reverse energy. And this kind of energy is really about self-doubt. And again, because we start off with the Nine of Pentacles, in the middle of the week, then we have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. So there is like a self-doubt in the actions that we are needing to take as far as addressing our healing in some way, shape, or form. Because healing doesn't always mean that you are meditating or that you are doing Reiki or stuff like that. Sometimes healing requires you making choices. Sometimes the choices that you make throughout your life will heal you, because then the regret kicks in when you wish you had done something different in a situation. You could have, oh my god, I should have said this, I should have been done that, this should have been done better, or whatever. Regret can, well, it not that it can be, but it can be a huge wound maker for people, especially when it comes to chakras. Because when you then, especially with Cancer energy and how much it lingers, because again, I've talked about this in the last video, Cancer energy and Cancer, our Cancer archetype, they remember everything that was done wrong to them, and the remembering is a way to linger. every time you kind of go back and open that wound and bring something up about like, oh, well, I remember when you didn't last week, you didn't, I made you food, but you didn't even think about saying thank you. Like something as simple that could seem like it's not a big deal. To them, it's a huge deal. And it's a underappreciation, because to them, it means that there's an underlining issue to why that did not happen. And that's where the lingering takes place. So there is like a not seeing your value and kind of lingering in that place of getting caught up in that kind of shadow Cancer energy that they do, which is not necessarily good, especially because even though the feelings of doing it, because again, Cancer is really good at analyzing problems, and the fact that they're able to see that the underlying issue to something is actually something else. It's not a bad thing. It's a very genuine feeling. That's why that Page of Cups energy is here, because it's a very genuine feeling. They know their worth. That's where you get this Empress energy from. They know their worth. They know how they should be treated. Cancers are very aware. That's that mother energy. They know how stuff should be ran. They know how to run the house. They know how to run. They could run literally anything. And they'll be able to run it and still put in that emotion of nurturing, because that's what it really is at the end. It's like, well, I fill your cup like this, but you don't do that to me. I don't even think you think of doing that to me. And that's what that energy is. That's where they get caught in the dwelling, and then they have to remind people what their value is to them, which is not really a fun thing to do, and something that's not the funnest thing to have to like say to someone. But Cancers do it all the time. They will check you on how you're not nurturing them, but they're nurturing you. And again, when they're doing it to themselves, where they're making themselves feel really, really bad about it, that's like leaning towards the shadow side. But when they're telling you, it's so you can change your behavior. They're trying to literally tell you how to take care of them, because it has become obvious to them that you don't know how to take care of them. So they're trying to tell you so you can do it better. So it is that energy of progressing. There is a very much a Cancer flow of water throughout this upcoming week, and it really goes like towards the end of it. You need to see your value. Like Nine of Cups with strength, this Leo energy with what I like to see as one of the most, probably one of the most egotistical cards of the zodiac, which is the Nine of Cups, which is not a bad thing. I'm a Leo rising. It's not a bad thing to have, to really come to terms with your value, because that's what this is. You're like, no, I deserve more. No, I treat you like this. That's not a bad thing. And it seems like it's the answer to this kind of upside down turmoil that might be coming up from the beginning of the week, like not trying to move a little bit slow, not saying what you actually need to say, to towards the end of the week actually just being like, no, you're not doing this correctly. And again, there some things, sometimes things need to be said. Healing comes from how you react to others, how you allow others to treat you, when you speak up about certain things, when you let your emotions just out and say, you know what, this is why I feel the way I feel, and you're doing this wrong. So this is not a bad thing, because again, this energy is just going to move a little bit slower in the beginning of the week, because it's like we're kind of soaking in it early, and then later throughout the middle of the week there's a shift of, no, but this is how I feel. That's that Page of Cups. It's like it's valid. Like I feel this, so it needs to be addressed. And again, it's heavy Cancer energy, but definitely not a bad thing. With this combination of the bottom of the deck with the Hermit and the King of Swords, this is very more it's like a lot of mental energy. The Hermit being the card of needing to retreat in order to process first. So that's kind of really important. If you need to do that, definitely, especially because last week I did advise that we did not socialize that much with people. And honestly, I feel like I was definitely right. I did not take time to socialize a lot. It was just a very interesting week, especially with the moon being in Scorpio. Scorpio energy always makes me pull back because it allows you to address an energy that might not, it's just heavier energy. Scorpio energy is like, you need to look at yourself, and sometimes looking at yourself means you need to admit things about other people. So it's not always the funnest thing to do, but it's a necessary thing to do. So messages for the week of June 25th to July 2nd. Ooh. Okay, so we have the Star in reverse, and then we have the Two of Pentacles in reverse. So this is very interesting, especially when it's reversed. There is, again, we did talk about this with the upper reading as far as this information goes. The Star in reverse, when it's like this, is and the Two of Pentacles, because the Two of Pentacles is, again, you're like weighing, there's definitely a flow of energy, like, but you're weighing kind of the scales a little bit, and you're like trying to decide. This is and then you have the Star, which is like pouring water into two, and how that links into two different things. You're pouring water into the grass, and that is then connecting to the grander water. That type of energy, like the way I'm going to read this, because that's the first thing I thought of, was not being this is a little bit more of that stubborn energy of, no, I know how I feel. I know how this, how do I put it? This energy is not necessarily how it affects me in a grander scale of things. Like, oh, okay, so our relationship is like this, and on the grander scale, like, I love you and all that stuff. No, this has to do with this very specific issue. So if this is in relation to a relationship or a job or anything like that, this is more talking about, we're looking at a microscopic thing. This is in relation to something specific, because this is not feeding the collective. This is feeding a specific issue that has been bothering, or obviously has caused some wounds that require healing in order to change it. And then the Two of Pentacles in reverse is very much a sureness of what that is. So even though there is a slow moving energy, it's almost like what you have to say is maybe a little bit too harsh, to the point that it might, like, there's no other way to sugarcoat it. That's really what I get from it. Like, if you wanted to sugarcoat it, if I wanted to sugarcoat this, there's no way. Like, trying to see things in a different point of view, like, oh, well, what if they were thinking this, or whether this is not it. This is like, it couldn't be as blunt as it could be. Like, whatever it is. Like, this is like, if someone was, if you had to question whether or not somebody was being racist, this is kind of what the Two of Pentacles in reverse is. Like, if you need to even try to get to the point where you're like, well, maybe they meant it this way, then they were being racist. That's what this card is in comparison to this. Like, whatever the situation is, there's a black and whiteness to it. There is no, oh, this may have meant, no. There's a, you feel like that's how you feel. And it's a very specific issue. Again, it's not necessarily like this defines that relationship or it defines your position in that place. This is a very almost microscopic issue that has been affecting you in this way. And then you have the Ace of Cups coming up. One just jumped out. And the Ace of Cups, especially with Cancer energy, can it be a good or a bad thing? The aces aren't always a blessing. They could be, but with Cancer energy and Cancer season, Ace of Cups an overflowing cup of emotion with this Cancer energy is very much the ultimate heaviness. Like, this is kind of what I just talked about. You are for sure emotionally feeling that whatever the issue is, that you are 100% right to feel this issue, is very black and white to you, and it's very clear. It's not sugar coated. I mean, there's gonna be a struggling in doing something about it earlier in the week, as we spoke about, but ultimately, you know your worth. It's like trying to convince yourself that you mean less than what you are. Like, your value is less. Like, if somebody was trying to argue that to you, you're like, no. That's what that is. And then you have the Five of Swords in reverse. And this is going towards like more of the middle side of the week, where you would have already retreated to kind of contemplate and do the cycle of that Cancer energy, that needing to reflect and just dwell in it and think about it so you can know what you're gonna say. And then you have the 10 of the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. So there is a kind of, I need to say something. In the middle of the week, it turns into my feelings are valid. The way I feel about this issue, the way I feel about this problem is valid. There's nothing, oh, here we go. There's nothing that you can say that will convince me otherwise. Like, this is how I feel. That's literally what it is. And the Wheel of Fortune in reverse is definitely, it's like, again, the Knight of Pentacles energy. It moves a little bit slower. It's still turning. The wheel is still turning, but it's slower. And it's focusing on something that may have been a blessing before, but needs to be addressed now. We have the Two of Swords, the Seven of Swords, the Hierophant. I always say that wrong. And Temperance. And our outcome is Temperance. Bottom of the deck is the Two of Cups and the Knight, the other King of Wands for this deck. And this is really interesting because, again, this goes into addressing value, but there's something that happened here that, I mean, this could also have to do with work, but there's something that happened here that made you need to retreat with this Two of Swords, and it made you need to pull back. And that's the energy that we talked about with the Manara deck. Like, it needed you to go back, dwell, be like, no, I'm gonna take some time off, I'm not going to socialize. That was last week's energy. And there was this, it doesn't feel good, whether it was lies, whether it was something that was said that hurt you, something that somebody did that hurt you, you feeling like somebody's taking advantage of you, taking advantage of your time, your love, the things that you do for them. There's like, I do too much. Like, you're mentally realize, like, you're like exhausted and you're just like, I do too much. And so that kind of just gets stuck there. And with the Hierophant, it's really, it could be a very much a collective thing. This could have to do with multiple people, whether it's like a family, because again, Cancer is the sign of the mother. It could be like, as far as the family wise, like, you do too much and you're actually saying like, hey, somebody needs to take on some more responsibilities, or just acknowledge that I do this. And just, if you acknowledge something, and this is very important with Cancer energy and Cancer signs and people and the archetype, if you acknowledge something to a Cancer, but then you don't do anything about what you just acknowledged, they're going to be more pissed at you than before they were even pissed at you because you didn't acknowledge it. Because then it's like you're choosing to hurt them. So this could be on a collective. This could be on the way that Cancer, that archetype, that energy, the way you've been forced to conform to the rules, the traditions, the way of that we do things. And now you're stuck in this loop of having to stay in that place of, oh, well, you always do it, so you're the one that does it. Like, when you're known as the one that does the thing and nobody else realizes or does it or helps you or does the thing with you, it's a very much a, okay, well, I know the value and I know I can do this thing very well, but you're not obviously seeing my value, or else you would help me, or you would acknowledge it or elevate it or change it or do something to change this thing that everybody's kind of comfortable in you staying in this position, even though they don't know what your pain is about it. That doesn't feel good at all. That could also be a Taurus. So if you do have a Taurus in your life, that could also be that. I mean, we did get Leo, we have Cancer. If you do have another Cancer in your life as well, it can be so many things. And then the outcome is Temperance, which is Sagittarius. So that's, again, it could be so many different types of energies as far as like what could be at play. But I'm not reading it necessarily as signs. I'm reading it as what the card's message is. And with Temperance, this guidance to me is always balancing the heart and the mind when it comes to the Temperance card. And it also talks about patience. And if you remember, the first card out was the Knight of Pentacles. And I told you guys that he moves the slowest. He waits for that seed to grow, the little sprout to come out. That takes patience. And while the outcome of the reading is Temperance, the way that I want you guys to understand it is that it's telling you to be patient, but after you have said and done what needs to be said and done. And that will come after you have your cycle of processing, because this is all healing. So if you go through this cycle and you're like, and you kind of dwell in the thing that you need to dwell in, take your time to really get to the root of why you feel the way you do. Then you get to the part where you understand your value, and then you're like, okay, well, this is what I feel. This is what it is. Like, you can't convince me that this is right, whatever it is. Once you got to that level, then you're moving into the overwhelming emotions. You're going to feel so heavy, and you're going to feel so like, no, I'm right. I feel this way, and my feelings are validated. You're going to validate your feelings. Then you're going to get into this, okay, well, last week I was like this, now I'm ready to say something, now I'm ready to address this. And then when you do, you will have that release of, you know what, I said what needed to be said, and I'm fine with it. And then this Temperance energy allows for that kind of, that healing to take place, because then you would have balanced your heart and your mind. You would have mentally have processed the situation, and you would have allowed your heart to, with this Ace of Cups, overflow, and at the same time provide that healing, that release that needs to take place from this. So I would say, I wouldn't say be patient with people, with the way people are going to process what you're going to say, because it's not always going to be easy. Like, people are not always going to be like accepting of your feelings. Like, people can disagree, and that's fine. But if they disagree with how you feel, they need to provide a good enough argument as to why they feel the way they do. It's really that simple. If they're going to disagree with you, they need to provide some arguments, because you already will have gone through the process where you have had your everything in check. You have analyzed this in like five bajillion ways. You have seen how on a collective level this has not helped whatever relationship it is, whatever, if it's a work relationship, whatever it is, it has not helped you, and you already know. So I'm not saying that the other, like, again, because there's two sides to the story, but this is how you feel. We're focusing on you. You're healing because of this situation. So if they want to heal with you, they need to be also going through this process, and then coming into an area where you're just speaking on, hey, listen, this is how I feel. this is why I feel the way I feel, and this is what I'm gonna say, and that's not gonna change because this is X, Y, and Z is why I feel that. Period. If they come in and they're just like, no, you're crazy, then obviously you already know your worth, you know what you need to do, and literally take yourself out of that situation, because at that point somebody's not valuing you and not valuing your feelings, and the healing that needs to take place within that situation. If, however, they're open to understanding that, then that will provide an even bigger healing opportunity, not just for you, but for them as well, and for that relationship, because then you would have allowed yourself to be open, like truly open, and it feels good when you feel understood by someone. And that's kind of what it is. Like, I want, it's like this reading is like, I want you to understand why I feel like you don't X, Y, and Z. That's really it. The first card that came out was Leo. I'm not surprised because we also got strength in this. We got Mercury and we got air. So, ego, communication, mental activity. And we were talking about mental activity a lot during Gemini season, but not, some air sign cards came out, and they do have to deal with a lot as far as socially. It could deal with lies. It could deal with just injustices. It could deal with so many different things. But ultimately, there's a lot of mental energy that's going to be happening this week, and this Leo energy, especially because, I mean, we just started Cancer season, but we will be going into Leo season. This Leo energy is it's necessary. You need to, Leos are professionals at knowing their value. Professionals. And sometimes you need to know what your value is. You need to be able to be like, I deserve better. You could do this better. Look at what I'm doing. Like, there needs to be the energy for the ego to be had. Like, it's ruled by the sun. Leo needs to shine. It needs to be in your face about it. It really does. It just does. It's like, the way you need to see it is as the sun provides that light, and the light will shine on the wounds that need to be healed, and that light is very much correlated with your ego. It has a huge connection to your ego, and healing, sometimes you need to heal your ego, and sometimes you need to allow your ego to let you heal as well. So you can play with it both ways, but this definitely has to do with a lot of mental decisions, mental processing your emotions mentally. Why do you feel hurt? Why? Ask yourself, why do you feel hurt? Why do you feel like this person's not doing enough? What can they could be doing better? Picture what that would look like, because that mercurial energy is like, listen, paint your world. What is it that you want it to visually look like? What is it that it means to you? What are your thoughts? So I hope that this reading was useful for you guys. I hope that you guys have a good week as well. It seems like it's going to be a very cardinal week. That's what I really get from this. Is very much that Cancer energy of, okay, we're not going to get necessarily stuck, but we will a little bit, but we still will bounce back from it and move. And that's actually a really great thing. Definitely use that the Cancer energy to work through whatever issues you guys are going through right now. I hope that you guys are healing through these videos as well. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to message me. All my links and stuff will be down below. And yeah, stay blessed. Have a good day. Bye.